What up, noobs? Rick here. I am going to a RTT this weekend. It is my first RTT ever. Actually, it's my first tournament ever, not just my first RTT. And so I kind of want to go over my list, my kind of mental preparations, where my head's at. I will be going to the Portland Premier RTT. That is November 7th. So it's all day. Sunday, 3 rounds. There are 24 people signed up. There are no tickets available right now. I've said it before in some of my interviews, but the best part is that for $17, it's unlimited tacos. So, first thing I did is I emailed the TO and I asked for forgiveness for the sins that I'm about to commit in the amount of tacos that I am going to destroy. Anyway, looking forward to that. So even if I lose, I still win. You might win a hefty case of indigestion, but I've still won. But, jump into my list. Hey, check it out. So, I was talking to Stefan, who's on One Last Blade, and I convinced him to come on down. He's supposed to be putting out a video as well about what's going on. We'll see, but he sent me his list. It's a Stefan list. It's very fluffy. It'll be very fun. I, however, am a casual tryhard, and so I brought what I think is a pretty competitive list. I have a patrol, a Prescient Brethren. I have a Brotherhood Techmarine with Sanctuary, and Divination. So my reason here for taking Prescient Brethren is not only is the stratagem amazing. So for anybody who doesn't remember, for 1 CP, 1 unit in a Prescient Brethren detachment per phase gets to reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound. So you effectively get a captain and a lieutenant aura for 1 CP. It's really good. I also gave them the warlord trait Divination. So the Divination warlord trait gives me back 1 CP. It should average me out 3 CP, 2 to 3 a turn or a game, because I'm also taking a spearhead detachment. That's 3 CP that I'm losing right off the bat. So that should go ahead, at least mentally. My idea is that that will even out the 3 CP that I spent. Also gave this fine gentleman the Foretelling of Locus. For me, in the 8 or 9 practice games that I've done with this list, Foretelling of Locus is an absolute must-take. I cannot imagine now playing Dreadknights without this pre-game movement. It's just incredible. It allows you to do a lot of crazy mind game stuff with your opponent, so like you can go heavy onto one flank, and then at the start of the game you just move everything to the other flank. Like, you can completely mess with your opponent that way. A more common thing is that you can set up everything behind obscuring terrain, and then if you win first turn, you can go ahead and push up a bunch of your Dreadknights or your Interceptors and be very aggressive with them, which is very cool. In the Prescient Brethren detachment, my last HQ will be a Grandmaster and a Nemesis Dreadknight. This is the one that I have painted up to be me. It's got my face, my beard, me wearing some cool sunglasses. It's everything that you know and love about every Grandmaster ever. The one thing that I've changed, though, is I have dropped Servant of the Throne, which is the 3-up invul for 1 turn, and I have given him the Gem of Inoktu. The reasoning for that is sometimes you absolutely have to get a power off. So that could be the Brotherhood power, or it could be Gate of Infinity. So the way that I envision this list is I want to be very mobile with Gate of Infinity, with Teleport Strike, or Shunt, Teleport Shunt, and Deep Striking in general. So to do that, to move around all the time, I want to be having Gate be very reliable, and with a lot of armies out there that can deny, other psychers, all that stuff. The gem allows me to have one turn where I can spend one CP to cast a second power. I can add +2 to both of those, and I can really get that gate off when it's clutch, when I might be within deny range, maybe of some Tyranids or Aldari or Thousand Suns or other Grey Knights. It's when I really need it to go off. Bam. So he's also got the Gatling silencer and the side cannon. All of my Dreadknights have the same guns. They all have actually the same melee weapon, and they all have teleporters as well. So my Dreadnoughts, my Dreadknights are all built the same way, effectively. So you don't have to worry about that. I did put Hammer of Righteousness on this Grandmaster, so they will have +1 to wound in combat as long as they charge, are charged, or heroically intervene. And then, of course, the Sigil of Exigence for the whole if you shoot me, I freely teleport thing. Should be great. Rounding out my troops, I have 3 strike squads. Part of what I had to do is I had to take what I have on hand, so I have 2 5-man strike squads with halberds, and 1 5-man strike squad with swords. The 5-man strike squad with swords are ones that I've built recently, back when there was still a lot of debate about what the best force weapon was going to be. I think so far, from all these interviews I've been doing lately, it's definitely the halberds that are totally winning out with so much toughness 3 out there right now. The strength 6 means you're going to wound Drukhari Sisters and Admech on 2s. It's very good. I have swords in one of these. No big deal. Then, of course, I've got the normal 20-man Interceptor squad. I was talking to Matthew Green. That's my latest interview. It's fantastic, by the way. You should really check it out. I mean, Matthew talked about how basically a Grey Knight's list is effectively really 2 choices. You've got like 2 sliders, right? You got 1 for DKs, you got 1 for Interceptors, and you get to slide them up and down. And if you take more DKs, you have to take fewer Interceptors, and vice versa. So I went DK heavy. My original version of this list actually had 30 Interceptors. And if I'm completely honest with you, the reason I'm taking 5 Dreadknights and not 30 Interceptors is really just because the only other Interceptors I have painted have falchions. And I just ran out of time. You'll notice that all of my Interceptors have swords. I have boxes on the shelf behind me. I'm going to be making more Interceptors with halberds, but this is what I built, this is what I painted, so this is what I'm bringing. Then I'm going into my spearhead here. It's pretty standard sword bearers, who knew? Crazy. Another Techmarines, so that's 2. This one is going to have, oh, I don't actually have it on this list. Whoops, I will update. Anyway, this one was going to have warp shaping on it. Then I've got another Grandmaster, again with Gate of Infinity and Empiric Amplification. You'll notice none of my characters have Vortex of Doom. I did that because I want to have redundancy. So if one of my Grandmasters dies, I still have Gate to go ahead and be constantly moving around the board and being very aggressive, or moving to get lines of fire that I otherwise wouldn't have, things like that. So I'm going for redundancy right now. Maybe if I get better at this game, I won't do that, and I'll worry more about like the offensive damage spells. Otherwise, this is my Grandmaster with Unyielding Anvil. That's the only warlord trait that they have. Unyielding Anvil is like, it's Rites of War, which there are entire builds around. If you've been watching any of my Death Watch content, you'll know that the 5 to 6 Dreadnought castle is a big deal right now with Death Watch, and they do it very well. And a lot of the way that that works is they have HQs sitting behind, giving the Dreadnoughts OBSEC through Rites of War. Unyielding Anvil is Rites of War on crack. So Rites of War just gives OBSEC to characters in core that otherwise don't have it. Unyielding Anvil gives it to characters in core that don't have it, and then also doubles it for models that do have it. So all my 3 squads of strikes, I've got 5 dudes on an objective and they're strike marines, and this guy's nearby, that's 10 models, not 5. So pretty big swing there. Also, if it's up front, if I'm being aggressive with it, and the Interceptors is going to grab or grant OBSEC to my Interceptors, it should be good. And then I'm rounding out everything with heavy support. 3 normal Nemesis Dreadknights with the same thing. They all have teleporters, they all have the Gatling silencers, they all have the psionic cannons, they all have the great swords. So all of my Dreadknights are built the same way. So I mean, that's my list. I'm excited. Like I said earlier, I've gotten in some practice games with this. I haven't lost with this list yet. It's been a real learning curve though, like how you move up with the Techmarines, and I've learned very quickly that they're actually really good psychic action monkeys. So, you know, command phase comes, you give 2 of the normal Dreadknights, awaken the machine spirit. Those Dreadknights then move up. They're very fast, as we all know. Then you can advance the Techmarines. Hopefully you're on an objective. At that point, those Techmarines, assuming you don't use the divination, and you don't need either sanctuary or warp shaping, then one of them can at least do your purifying ritual. So, you know, you can leave your other powers for your Dreadknight so they can smite, or they can get off hammer hand, or whatever you need. Also, if a normal Dreadknight gets buffed with wisdom or awaken the machine spirit, and is then within range of one of the Grandmasters, now they're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s to hit. It's nuts, right? If my main Grandmaster that's a Prescient Brethren charges in, they're getting +1 to wound, they're hitting on 2s, and I can pop 1 CP for them to reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound. So they'll be wounding almost everything in the game on at least 3s, rerolling 1s. Most stuff in the game on 2s, rerolling 1s. So he'll be a blender. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. The other thing is, when I built this list, you know, like building your secondaries, I talk about this all the time. It's very important. So primarily I want to be looking at Stranglehold and of course Purifying Ritual. We all know Purifying Ritual is one of the best, if not the best, secondary available in the game right now, and it plays really well into Stranglehold because you can tow onto an objective that you don't even control, still cast it, still get the points. If you listen to some of my other interviews with Mr. Ozawa, he was talking about how he uses Purifying Ritual to kind of bait out and denies and stuff as well, so you cast with the ones up front nearest your opponent first, and that way maybe your 1 point cast fails, but now they're 1 less deny, and then you can get off in Empiric Amplification or the Sword Bearer's power. It's just good. It's so good. Then Stranglehold, of course, you know, you need to hold 1 more than your opponent, which means that you're playing towards the primary anyway. So like on a 5 objective mission, you're holding the back 2 in your objective, then you can shoot your enemy off of that middle one, and you just tow in your Interceptors, you throw away that squad, you're trading for those 3 points every turn. Matchups where I don't think I can hold the center very well, like let's say, I don't know, maybe Death Guard with a whole bunch of Poxwalkers or something. I know once they get into the middle, it'll be really hard to kick them back off. So I may take Rod instead. And there's always that third that's kind of floating there to be used on your opponent, right? So like if it's Necrons, I can do no prisoners and get tons of points for chewing through warriors. If it's a Silver Tide style build, if it's AdMech with a lot of vehicles or orcs with a lot of vehicles, you can do bring them down or bring it down. This army is very low model count, so grind them down might even be something I could use, like depending on the terrain. If I see like it's got lots of open lines of fire, those Dreadknights put down so much withering firepower that I think that would also be an excellent secondary for me. Yeah, I'm excited. I've probably been really overthinking all of this stuff, if I'm completely honest. But can you be too prepared, right? I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, specifically about like Grey Knights and how they match into other armies. The major ones I'm worried about right now are ones I've never even played. Like I've never played against Speedwant Orcs. I've never played against the new AdMech. I only played against 8th edition AdMech. I've never played against the new Sisters. Not even once. I played against them one time and they had their 8th edition codex still. So there are all of these high level armies that are doing very well in the meta right now. And to top it all off, I have never actually won a game against Drukhari since their 9th ed book. Granted, I also haven't played them with this list, and I haven't played them since with my Grey Knight since the game that was streamed right after the codex came out, and I was trying out a whole lot of wacky stuff in that build. I had a Storm Raven, so not exactly a super competitive list there. But yeah, we'll see. There are those 4 boogeymen who are all ranked higher than Grey Knights right now, and unfortunately I haven't actually played any of them. So I'm just doing lots of book reading and research right now about what my game plans are. If you're not a subscriber to The Art of War and you can afford to throw them a few bucks, Nick Nanavati did a podcast with John Lennon very recently discussing Grey Knights and how Nick Nanavati plays them into all of these tough matchups, and it's a fantastic listen. I think it's probably almost 2.5, maybe even 3 hours of Grey Knight content. So if you got like $10 to throw at them, it's probably worth it just for that. How did this come about? So I was on BCP. I was probably doing research for one of my interviews, and I just put in Portland because I don't live in Portland proper, but I live very close to Portland. And I saw, oh look, there's actually an event, and I signed up, and I knew that if I signed up that it would be the kick in the pants that I really needed to get a bunch of my hobby stuff done. I think I started building them after One Last Blade got the leak from the Grey Knights about what the melee profiles were going to be like. So I built them all with swords, thinking that at the time that there would be a lot of Space Marines in the meta, which obviously we know now Space Marines are not as good as they were 6 months ago. Anyway, so yeah, I had to paint 20 Interceptors, 3 Dreadknights, 2 Techmarines, and that was a lot. I was spending a lot of my free time. Like, I have other hobbies. I have a wife. You know, I do other things. So for me to find the time to actually do this was pretty cool. And to go ahead and finish, like, I figured I would be painting up until the morning of the event, and I'm all done now. And the event, 3 more days. So I'm already ahead of the curve in that way, and I feel pretty lucky about that. So my wife has been laughing at me as I paint my little pretty Barbie dolls, but overall is very supportive. So I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. Please give me any feedback that you have about my list. It's too late. I think I have 1 day. So by the time this is up, I'll have mere hours, but I have 1 more day as of this recording to go ahead and actually submit any list changes. Definitely have to submit one here to add warp shaping to that second Techmarine. So I'll be doing at least that. But anyway, send me any updates you think my list is missing. Some of the optimizations I'd like to do is if I drop one teleporter from one of the non-Grandmaster Dreadknights, and I drop one of the strike squads, I can throw in some more Interceptors, but then I have to upgrade to a battalion, I think, and things get really goofy. So maybe I couldn't do that. Anyway, there are options. My interview with Matthew Green was very interesting because he runs his Dreadknights, without greatswords and just with fists. So that would save me 45 points right there if I dropped all the greatswords. That means I also have to build 3 more Dreadknights because some of the ones I have are eBay rescues and they are not magnetized in any way. So that will be fantastic. Oh, matchups. So my general game plan is against Sisters. I want to stay at maximum range in Tide of Convergence and allow them to come to me, shoot off as much as I can, and then probably turn 3 on. I can be really aggressive with gates and shunt. Try to either kill their Retributors early to save my Dreadnoughts. Wow, why am I doing that? Damn. Red Knights. Or just avoid them, because they only have so they only move 6, and they only have a 24-inch range, so staying outside of 30 inches, depending on the mission, might not even be that difficult. Or if you can just get a squad of Interceptors onto them, they'll fold like paper. So that's my plan there. For Orcs, if I run into anything that isn't Speedwa, I'm sure it'll be a great game with no problem. If I run into Speedwa, if you listen to my interview with Ben Sherwin, he explains that against Speedwa, he basically just puts everything in Deep Strike, and the only thing he leaves out is the Techmarines and the Dreadknights, and that is exactly half of the PL of the list. My list is very much like Ben's, except I changed a Brotherhood and I changed some of the Warlord traits around, but it's the same basic thing with the tons of Dreadknights and the 2 Techmarines. So I can do the exact same thing. I can deep strike everything. So if the Speedwa Orc goes first, he only gets to shoot at things with 2 up, and then I'll be in shadows, obviously, so that'll be a 1-up save. If there's enough dense terrain around, then there'll be -1 to hit by towing in onto that stuff. So I think I'll be able to weather the storm there. AdMech is hard because if they have flyers, you kind of have to hope that they'll be super aggressive with them and they'll get in your face. And if, you know, you're going to lose a Dreadknight, maybe 2 Dreadknights. After that, though, if they've gotten the flyers into your face, you can punk them on your turn 1, and then they don't have any more flyers. So then all you have to really worry about are the Rangers and the Ruststalkers. The Ruststalkers you can kind of zone out and ignore, or you can do a lot of shenanigans with the Interceptors shoot move in the Psychic Phase power. I don't know. You definitely don't want to charge them because they can make your dudes fight last, but you know, you can, if you ignore them, then they're forced to move them out into the open, and then you can shoot the hell out of them, or you can just shoot them by going around, by being aggressive again with Gate of Infinity or dropping out of Deep Strike. So that's my AdMech plan. You know, maybe if I can, I don't know how good my opponents are. Other than Stefan, I don't know the names of anybody there, so I don't know if they're as experienced as I am, or newer, or more seasoned. I'm gonna assume the latter, but you know, there's always those misplays where if they don't screen out their backfield and I can drop in a strike squad and they can shoot their, you know, HQ off the board in turn 2, then you know, that would be amazing, because then those ranger bricks won't get a whole bunch of those giant buffs and all that, you know, so on. You can't go into a game like this with a game plan that your opponent's going to make a mistake. And then my other matchup that I'm really worried about would be Drukhari, and it's just because, again, my morale is lowered going into the Drukhari matchup because I have literally never won against them. Not with my Grey Knights, not with my Death Watch. I've played two very good Drukhari players that are friends of mine, and so it's hard for me as a newer player to get a one-up on them. But this list is much better than my previous list that I played with. I know the codex a lot better now after these games that I've put in. So, like, I'm not gonna go in there demoralized and like pouting and saying how Drukhari's stupid or whatever, but you know, I've got some plans. I know that with Gate and Shunt and Deep Strikes and stuff, we can get angles onto raiders and HQs and squads that maybe the Drukhari player isn't aware of that we can get, or depending on the terrain, which I don't know what it's gonna be like. You know, I can probably pop some raiders in the back, maybe get his Trueborn out, things like that. If I can make those Incubi and Drazar like slog it up the board, that means I have multiple turns available to me where I can just shoot them. And as we all know, Drukhari don't like to be shot. So, huzzah. That's my plan there. Dark Lances, I kind of did the math, and there's really no reason to ever be in Height of Shadows against Drukhari, because they're going to shoot you with Dark Lances, which are a neg 3. So your Dreadknights are going to be at up 1+, which is going to drop you to your 4-up invul anyway. And depending on how much dense terrain there is, you can get -1 to hit without having to use shadows. So I'll probably do the same kind of thing that I'm thinking of with Sisters, where I'll stay in Tide of Convergence, I'll keep all my psi weapons at a 30-inch range, and I'll make them come to me. Turn 1, they're very unlikely to have advance and charge. So if they... that gives me 2 turns, more or less, before they're in my face. So hopefully I can kill a lot in those 2 turns. Kill the Incubi, because they get fight last. Kill Drazar, because he makes all the other Incubi way better. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, but I think it's totally doable. That's actually like a pretty decent matchup for Grey Knights, I think. And then the Mortal Wounds, like, oh my god, the Mortal Wounds we can do is just silly. Like, I'm actually kind of curious to see how the Prescient Brethren power might go off, because that's the one where if they move, they take D3 Mortal Wounds. If they advance, they take D3 Mortal Wounds. And if they charge, they take D3 Mortal Wounds. So that is potentially 3d3 mortal wounds that one unit of Incubi or one unit of Witches might be taking into one of my units. It is only a 12-inch range though, so that kind of sucks, but beside the point. I've got some game plans. Everything else, like Death Guard, I know there are some Death Guard players on the roster. I played against Death Guard a bunch, my buddy Steven. Not really concerned about that. I think it'll be a fun thematic matchup, but I'm not really concerned. Let's see. Imperial Knights. Never played against them either. Just gonna hope my +1 to wound and +1 damage strat goes off, and I can kill enough knights like right out the gate to blunt their assault and otherwise hide. Some of the other hobby stuff I had to do is I had to build a magnetic carrying tray. So in the past, when I've gone to like another friend's house and I've played Warhammer, I've just put all of my guys in like a little plastic box. But even then, just driving, 20 minutes to go to a friend's house, weapons break off or heads pop off or arms pop off or whatever. So I went ahead and I made a fancy dandy magnetic box, and I glued magnets to the bases of all of my models so they don't move. As you can see in this picture here, I have this box almost upside down and they're not falling out. So I'm already feeling much better about transporting my models. I'm still bringing extra super glue and plastic glue and an X-Acto knife and other things to the tournament anyway, just in case. But I'm feeling a lot better now that I have a transport case. So this was kind of like a string of consciousness. I'm sorry if it didn't make a whole lot of sense. My brain is going crazy right now, thinking about what might happen. But I'm excited. This is my first tournament. I'm sure I'll meet some really cool people. I'll get to play 3 games of Warhammer, which is legit. I get to play one of my favorite factions ever, the Dreadknights. They have a really strong codex right now. I think I have a strong build, and the only one that's going to let me down is me. So if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, all that. Share it with your friends. And don't forget to call your mother.